Good afternoon. My name is Anna Letta, and on behalf of Luxflag, I'm very glad to welcome you to this first session of the afternoon, which marks the third and last day of the Luxflag Sustainable Investment Week. The discussion today will be about SFDR in private equity, the first reality check. Please welcome our panelists, Stephane Pesch, who will moderate the session, and Stephane is the CEO at the Luxembourg Private Equity and Venture Capital Association. Julie Pelcé, ESG specialist at CMS Luxembourg. Teresa Gonzalez, head of sustainability and ESG at Arcano Partners. And Thomas Tobolka, conducting officer and portfolio manager at Vistra Fund Management Luxembourg. Dear speaker, the floor is yours.
Thanks a lot, Anna, for this very warm welcome. Good afternoon to all of you. You already shared many interesting informations about our sessions. So yes, we are the Private Equity and Venture Capital Association. First reality check, that's a nice title. So we have good topics to share with you afterwards. And I certainly wanted to also thank Luxflag now again for this opportunity to be here after so many years, also to help out with different sessions and to be a great partner and certainly also neighbor of the House of Finance. And those weeks are fabulous. We love them. So that's wonderful to be here again. Just for those who would not know us, just a quick recap. So the LPEA is the Private Equity and Venture Capital Association in Luxembourg, created in 2010. Our really main mission is to represent, promote and defend the interests certainly of the industry, but also of our 400 members. So how do we do that? We first articulate that around public affairs. We discuss with different ministers, the CSSF, also Invest Europe, which is the Pan-European Private Equity Association in Europe, and certainly other partners like Luxflag and many others in that House of Finance. What we also do is to create a community, to build good content, to do roadshows, promote Luxembourg outside of our borders, and to do that with technical committees and clubs. We have 30 many topics. They go from legal to tax, but certainly also market practice operations and ESG, diversity, HR, which are very important topics again for us. The third angle or part of the triangle for us is really to do talent attraction and retention. So that's why we created in 2020 a training academy. We want also young talents to come to Luxembourg and certainly stay in Luxembourg and do a great career here. So that's why we also created a job fair. So all those kind of projects together are here to help out in order to do a great career in this financial sector and also to help out the different associations with their different endeavors. So that's just a quick recap of the LPEA. So the good question is now, why are we today here? Because first of all, LuxFlag is a great partner, so that's a pleasure. But also the other questions, because ESG or sustainable finance are dear to our hearts and it's also part of our strategy. If you want, we are very proud of our value creation model. This is when investment managers buy portfolio companies, they then take them, let's say, under their management. They help them out to build further services, new products, and also digitalize them. After a few years, they sell them with profits. That's what we would call the financial value creation. And we are persuaded that also the non-financial angle has an important role to play in the future. It's not only here to check boxes or to have a great conscience, it's really to do something which has later on, certainly on long term, an impact. And that's how we see the things. So that's why we need to accelerate, because as a hands-on industry with lots of practitioners, we like really concrete actions, pragmatic projects, and not just talk. So yes, it took a long time to get a kind of SFDR. People were not all convinced in the beginning why enforce, but at one moment you need to act. I saw that on your video, Act Now. We also absolutely believe in that message. So that is, let's say, a right timing. Yes, it's not, let's say, as rosy or lovely as you could just imagine. It's not just like saying yes and let's do it. There are some obstacles on the road, which we will discuss together with our panelists, including, for example, data collection, legal certainty around the topic, certainly also the interpretations of level 2 and some other documents might be important. And certainly later on, since we also like that operational angle, how do you implement it concretely in your business model and implement it for your clients? That's also an element which we would like also to push further. So that's, again, another important thing here. And I would just like to finish then also that long term, yes, this is an effort. AFMD in 2013 was also perceived as something, oh, this is burdensome, costly, etc. But look at the position we have nowadays, where it brought us. And that's exactly here the parallel I would like to draw with SFDR. Yes, there are still open questions, but let's do our best in order to tackle them in the future. And that concludes then my introduction. And I would like then to introduce, let's say, our colleagues. Anna has done it. So we have Julie first. We'd like to say a few words about your profile and experiences, please.
So, yeah, okay, it's working. So I'm Julie Pelcé. I'm the ESG specialist in CMS Luxembourg. I'm attached to the investment funds team, and I'm developing the ESG expertise, and at the moment really focusing on SFDR. Super. And Teresa would like to continue?
Yes, I don't know.
It's on, yes.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Teresa Gonzalez. Thank you, first of all, to LuxFlag for inviting Arcano. Arcano is an alternative asset manager, that in a multi-active asset manager. We invest in private equity, but also in venture capital, infrastructures, real estate, and also credit, European credit corporate. I'm the head of sustainability, and I am in charge to improve or to carry out all the efforts in terms of ESG in our asset manager division.
Thank you, Teresa. And finally, last but not least, Thomas.
Sorry, good afternoon, everybody. A pleasure to be here. My name is Thomas de Bolka, as already mentioned. I'm a conducting officer at Vistra Fund Management, and I'm heading up the basically portfolio management marketing distribution function. I think I should probably say what AFM is a little bit, because if you don't have we are third-party AFM, so if you don't have a presence in Luxembourg and you want to have a fund domiciled in Luxembourg, under certain circumstances, you actually require a third-party manager, and we provide these services. My background, I used to manage for more than 16 years pan-European funds, mainly real estate, and there was also some infrastructure and private equity, basically elements. I moved to Luxembourg nearly 3 years ago from London.
Good.
Looks like a very interesting career to be further developed later on. Let's now pass on then to Julie, who will share with you then an update on SFDR.
Yes, thank you. So SFDR is, as you know, is the Sustainable Financial Disclosure Regulation. It's really important in Luxembourg, in Europe, but mostly in private equity sector, because according to the recent study published from LPEA, Morningstar and ZEB, 64% of sustainable assets are actually equity, which is more than in conventional funds. And this is mainly explained, as Philip mentioned, that when you invest in equity, you have a say as a shareholder in how business can be run with sustainable factors as well. And so that's why understanding the regulation about private equity investments is important. And so I would explain to you the latest development of SFDR and then to see how this is relevant in private equity. So as you all know, SFDR entered into force in 2021. It sets the disclosure requirements to enhance transparency about sustainability in the investment fund sector. So the asset managers have to report on how they integrate sustainability into their investment decisions, but also about their product. And when they entered into force, the disclosures of SFDR had to be completed with the regulatory technical standards, which have been worked on for many months and finally got published in July. And this is what we call the Level 2 SFDR, which is entering into force in January. And the Level 2 SFDR is it's bringing additional disclosures to the Level 1 for those products which are called ESG focused, so the Article 8 and Article 9 products. Article 8 being the products promoting environmental and social characteristics, and Article 9 products having sustainable investments as objective. And so when you have Article 8 and Article 9 products, by complying with Level 2 SFDR, you need to disclose way more information than before. And this is done mainly by appending a template to your offering documents, by completing your website disclosures, and by completing the periodic reports also by way of a template. Concretely, it means that when you want to be compliant before 1st of January 2023, you need to fill out these templates, first with what you already disclosed for the Level 1, but also to complete it with the additional information. And that's why it is really important to proceed to this gap analysis as soon as possible, because 1st of January is coming very soon. And also, as a reminder, for the regulated funds, there is the accelerated examination procedure in front of the CSSF, which is open until the end of the month. So you can submit your adapted documents to benefit from the accelerated procedure. So why is SFDR relevant for private equity funds? Well, when you read the disclosure requirement of SFDR, most of them are actually really tailored for equity investments. For instance, you need to report on how you assess the good governance of the investee companies. And this is really important because it is quite subjective to, it's a subjective assessment to do, but it means that you need to have a strong policy in place to be sure that the companies that you're investing in are actually complying with what you call good governance and then complying with SFDR. So for instance, it can be that you look into the composition of the board, that you can look if they have policies such as whistleblowing policies, code of conduct, employees, policies and stuff like that. Additionally, there is also on the website and in the periodic report, you also need to report on the engagement policy. So when you invest in private equity, SFDR expects you to have a strong engagement policy to be able to discuss every day and to engage with the management of the firm you invest in to make sure that they comply with your sustainability expectations or to develop the sustainability of the firms. And this is even more relevant in private equity than public equity because private equity, you don't have the information publicly available, and that's why you need to engage every day with the management to know what they are doing and also to get the data that you need. And this leads me to actually to speak about the challenges of implementing SFDR in private equity, which is mostly, okay, it is related to the constantly evolution of the regulation for sure, but also to the collection of data, as we'll discuss later as well. But the fact that some private firms are not aware of what is expected from SFDR, it's really important for you to really engage with the management to let them know about what is ESG, what is SFDR, and what data you need from them. So I guess this is the most challenging part of implementing SFDR. And this is what we'll see as well with the other co-panelists.
Thank you, Julie, for giving us that overview. And since our panel was also about that reality check, so let's then deep dive into what an AFM has done, so the fund manager. Afterwards, we can continue also with Teresa on another note. So Thomas, I think over the 2 last years, the entire ESG landscape has changed, has been updated, it's not over yet. Could you please summarize a little bit the responsibilities of AFMs in this context and which examples you could share on that one?
Yes, thank you. I think I should probably put a little bit in the context because a few years ago, European Commission launched its flagship Sustainable Finance Action Plan, where actually the SFDR regulations and also taxonomy are in the heart of that plan. And for external AFMs or actually any AFMs, SFDR regulations have given us responsibilities, which also mark the AFM as a financial market participants. And these responsibilities just following on Julie. So, for example, we need to ensure that for regulated funds, there are Article 8 and 9. We made to basically ensure that the pre-contractual disclosures, I'm talking about the final RTS templates, are basically filed regulated by end of this month. And that's basically Annex 2 and Annex 3. So Annex 2 template, it's for Article 8 funds, which promotes the sustainability or promotes ESG. And Article 9, and basically, as Julie said, it has a sustainability objective in the fund. And part of this exercise to actually comply with the October deadline, it's for AFMs to actually sign a confirmation letter. That confirmation letter basically confirms that has a predominant statement, which essentially means that as an AFM, we confirm that Article 23 disclosure is available on a certain page of the PPM, then making sure that we confirm that compliance with the Article 10 of the SFDR. Basically, that's the website disclosure, which needs to be published on our website. Then Article 11, which is basically annual reporting, and also consistency with Article 6 and 7 of SFDR. So these are two kind of imminent ones, but also we need to do the same exercise for unregulated funds by end of this year. But again, this basically touches only Article 8 and 9 funds. As an AFM, we had to also comply with the deadline. It was the 2nd of August this year, where every single AFM had to update and make sure that we have policies and procedures in place in respect of AFMD. And in respect of AFMD covering the SFDR. So what we had to do is update the policies on due diligence, risk management policy, conflict of interest policy, also in terms of resources. And last one, but not the least one, it's a governance. So basically, the board of directors of any AFM or executive committee, like conducting officers, are conversant with the regulations and make sure that it ripples down basically through their teams and everybody understands what actually ESG means.
And if we are now a little bit more intimate, what was a little bit your approach in order to smoothly integrate it in your business model and on, let's say, daily operations?
Good question. I mean, I think I need to go back to last year because I think everybody kind of rushed for the first hard deadline was 10th of March last year, where a lot of disclosures had to be done. From AFM perspective, basically we opted out, so we don't comply, we didn't consider essentially ESG. The reason being because it's so difficult for third-party AFM or any AFM to actually sign to certain article, because then we would exclude our clients, which are Article 6, for example. So we opted out to make sure that we can service all strategies are private equity, infrastructure, real estate, funds of funds, and also those basically managers who actually opted out for those 3 articles.
Yeah, okay, so those were then the options for you. And could you give us more details on, finally, what should be disclosed and how, Thomas?
Okay, so I will go back to, I will start with a website disclosure, which is the Article 10 SFDR disclosure. Then essentially it's about how, what, and then there's a nuance between, or distinction between Article 8 and 9. So in terms of what, basically the website disclosure contains what is the objective. Second, how, basically that means how you measure it, assess it, and monitor it throughout the fund life cycle. In terms of Article 8, basically you need to declare that you are promoting and also how you are promoting it. And Article 9, as Julie said again, is basically sustainable investment is your objective. And then you need to assign an index to align with a relevant benchmark, basically. So that's the article, that's the website disclosure. Then Article 23 of the AFMD, this is where AFMs need to make sure that certain information is available to investors. And this goes to basically when you start trying to fundraise money from the LP. So this goes to pre-contractual side. And in terms of SFDR, basically we had to make sure that Article 23 contains how AFM considers sustainability risks in the investment process. There needs to be a positive statement, which is a principal adverse impact statement. And again, going to distinction of Article 8 and 9, Article 8 again promotes and how you promote and how you want to achieve this promotion. And Article 9 is basically how you want to invest and measure and deliver the sustainability. And there's the last one, Article 22 of the AFMD, which is basically annual reporting. And this ties with the RTS templates, the final templates, Annex called also Annex 4 and 5. Annex 4 is for Article 8, and Annex 4 is 5 is for Article 9 fund, where we need to actually ensure that it will be those 2 templates or basically those 2 annexes will be filed with the annual statements. But when I say annual statements, I mean basically financial statements, audited financial statements, that are usually filed within 6 months of after the year end. So the deadline for filing those 2 annexes, Annex 4 and 5, for us with the clients is end of June next year.
Looks like quite complex and complete. So here you mentioned also the RTS, famous regulatory technical standards. How do you foresee their interpretation and integration in the end? Because sometimes they're kind of perceived as the elephant in the room.
Yes, I mean, they're definitely complex. I was at Expo a couple of weeks ago in Munich, and I think the industry is definitely echoing that the complexity of the templates, it's quite difficult to achieve. And we have, you'll probably talk about the data collection and kind of the nitty-gritty, because as an AFM, again, we are kind of in the middle. We need to ensure that actually the templates are filed with the regulator or presented to investor by a certain deadline. So, but the nitty-gritty actually goes to our clients that actually need to collect the data and make sure that we get as an AFM again what we need or to disclose to the investors.
And if we now take the client angle, about their awareness, how would you deal with that? Because that's also playing an important role.
Good question. In terms of awareness, a lot of clients last year opted out for being Article 6, just to be really on the safe side. We have a few Article 8 and 9 funds. Some of them are now considering let's call it the upgrade from Article 6 to Article 8. And these are more open-ended funds, which are still in the fundraising period, and now they are kind of being, there's a pressure from investors to actually, if you want to have our money, then you need to kind of be at least Article 8. So there's a pressure on them, and we have a conversation with those clients how to actually bring them to Article 8, for example. Also, sorry, but also there are a few clients considering from being Article 9 to Article 8. It's a bit of downgrade because last year they signed up on a, let's say, best effort basis, but now we have a final templates in place, and you need to start really going into detail and really data collection and delivery of for each company, if you like. Then I heard some, let's say, whispers in that some of them might be, at least they're considering to Article 8. If it's going to happen, I don't know. But yeah, it's quite challenging.
And as highlighted by Julie previously and yourself just right now, so that you need to do, you will be kind of challenged if not, but what are the upsides of that whole SFDR? What are the opportunities now? Because in the end, it's not just about technique. So,
well, there are a lot of opportunities. I mean, once you start getting data, I mean, you can then do a lot of data mining. Then also, once, let's say, the dust settles down a little bit, and people get used to these regulations, how to do things, I think potentially you can have a good argument in terms of strengthening the value of your portfolio and saleability. Then when you want to raise next fund in a few years' time, once you start building the track record, then it should be easier for you to raise the money, basically, for a new funds. But also it could actually be a little bit longer, because now if you sign up for Article 8 or 9, then if you have any CapEx initiatives, then you need to actually think how you actually meaningfully implement that amount of money to actually to actually deliver what you sign up for. So that could potentially actually increase the length of your investment time, and then you need to factor it then basically in your risk-return profile.
thank you, Thomas, for sharing in a very transparent manner all those different elements and how you will implement that soon. So Vistra Fund Management, third-party AFM, as we understood. Now let's move on to a more concrete business case where a GP has also introduced us all those different SFDR reportings and elements. Julie, would you like to discuss that with Teresa, please?
Yeah, so as you said, Arcano Asset Management is not a third-party asset manager, but you have your own funds. And so you told me that you had fund of funds, private equity funds of funds. And so can you explain us how ESG integration is done in those type of fund of funds?
Yes, as you said, we mainly invest in private equity through fund of funds. So our ESG integration is at a general manager level and not at a portfolio company level. So to do this, what we have developed is an internal tool that rates each fund or each general partner behind the fund and give them a scoring in order to see their ESG commitment. Okay, so for example, the first thing that we see that we look if they are really a commitment in terms of ESG, and we see, for example, if not only if they have a responsible policy, because this is very basic for us, we also see if they have a solid governance, responsible investment structure. We also see if they are part of some interesting initiatives that are well known, such as PRI or GRESB, or depending on the asset where we are investing. We also see, for example, if they give ESG training to their employees. We also see if they are an active actor in terms of ESG, but also we see, for example, if how they effectively integrate ESG in the investment selection. For example, we see if they conduct ESG due diligence in the potential transaction. We also see if they include ESG clause once they have closed the transaction. We also try to understand their monitor and control process when they carry out ESG plan action during the life of the investment. We see if there is staff dedicated to monitor the KPIs, the ESG KPIs of the plan of action. We also see if this staff has linked their salary to this KPIs performance. And we also see if they are capable to demonstrate that they have generated value, or that they will generate value at the end of the investment. And finally, we also see the level of transparency of the manager in terms of ESG, if they report ESG information. With these all elements, we use more than 20 KPIs. We give them a score, and as I told you, we conduct this ESG due diligence in parallel with investment traditional due diligence, following with a ESG questionnaire. We get the answers of the questionnaire through conference calls and meetings, and we also see. We also double check these answers sometimes with some external sources. All this information of the manager, with all this information, we give them a score, and we incorporate our findings in terms of ESG in our investment memo, which is discussed every week in our investment committee. So it's as relevant as any other element of analysis. And for example, in our funds 6, if a manager has a low scoring, we do not rule it out from the investment decision, but we encourage them to improve their ESG considerations in their investment process. And that's it.
And as a follow-up question, do you then, once you invested in those managers, do you keep a constant check on them? Do you discuss with them, or how does it work?
Yes, we as a fund of funds, the first important thing is to do very well your first stage, your first investment decision, because as you know, private equity is not as liquidity as traditional markets, so you have to do your homeworks very well at the beginning of the transaction, and this is the most relevant part of our ESG integration. But then we monitor their ESG improvements year by year.
Okay, that's really clear. And you also mentioned me that you have an impact fund of funds. And so how does the ESG strategy differ from one or the other?
Yes, for us, yes, as you said, we have a private equity fund of funds, impact private equity fund of funds. We invest mainly in healthcare and well-being, sustainable, ecological transition, sustainable agriculture, and education and gender equality. And yes, for us, it's very different, the approach to ESG and the approach to the impact thing, because at the end, for us, ESG is more related to the process, to identify risks and opportunities for our stakeholders, and the operation of the company, no? But impact is something more related to the mission of the company, to the core activity of the company, that a company that tries to achieve a social or environmental need through its business, no? So the approach is different. We also have developed a different tool. We raise this tool for all of our impact managers, but for example, and we also raise the ESG tool for these managers. The ESG tool, we raise the ESG tool for all of our management. The impact tool, we conduct this impact due diligence just for our impact funds. And the focus of this due diligence is to know what are their impact management and measure methodology behind the strategy. For example, what kind of things we look? We see if they are impacted dedicated team. We review if they have, as I said before, a robust, solid impact measurement and management methodology. And we, for example, also see if they link the carried interest to their impact targets.
Okay, thank you. And now the question more challenging. So how do you see the data collection in private equity fund of fund? And is this a major challenge for you? And do you see any other challenges actually in the implementation?
Yes, data is for sure, I think, that the most challenging thing in the ESG field, no, and with all of this regulation, because first of all, as you know, the private equity firms, I mean the firms where we invest, they are not used to collect this kind of data because they are not under, in Europe, they are not under the SFDR regulation, the non-financial regulation. So for us, it's very difficult. And there is another additional difficulty that it is, we are a fund of funds, so we are a little far away from the portfolio company. So we depends on the general manager where we invest. Why is this is the reason why we have developed this important tool in order to see who is going to be capable to give us this kind of information and who is not. This is our first challenge, but there is another challenge that we invest not only in Europe, we also invest in US, and as you know, we are very advanced here in Europe in terms of ESG regulation, and we have to navigate through different frameworks, not only by country, but also we have legal frameworks and we have other voluntary frameworks such as SASB, TSFD. So for us, as a LP, a kind of LP as a fund of funds and GP, is very difficult to deal with all these frameworks.
Yeah, thank you. And then another question which is more related to the organization within Arcano Asset Management. So how did you see the past few years? Obviously, you had to change internal organization to integrate ESG. So can you tell us a bit more about how is it organized within Arcano Asset Management?
Yeah, sure. Yes, when as I told you before, I'm the head of sustainability and I have my own team, but I share this team with the investment department because what we have is an ESG lead by every investment strategy. So we have an ESG lead for infra, we have an ESG lead for venture capital, we have an ESG lead for private equity and also for real estate and for credit. No? And we work together in order to develop ESG tools in order to integrate these questions into their investment decisions. And we also develop together products. No? For example, we sit together and we say, okay, can we do this fund Article 8? Can we do this fund Article 9? How can we, what is the methodology that is behind this product and things like that.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I don't know if you have a question to ask Teresa or...
We could now pass on to the Q&A. We're rather quick, so that leaves us enough room to ask some questions, but I have a few. For example, to all of you, until now, how you have practiced SFDR, implemented it, what would be your main suggestion on those lessons learned you would like to share with our audience today? If there would be one thing you think that needs to be shared because they will either not waste any time, no revenues, or this is very important, so keep that directly, your eyes on that. Teresa, would you like to start on one element?
What I need most in this moment is maybe a clear sights in terms of regulation, no? Because as you know, there is not fully developed, and we are trying to deal with this, and everybody needs answers that we are not able to respond with a clear vision.
Julie, anything important you would like to share?
Yeah, I think for me, in the most important thing to remember in the implementation of the regulation is that SFDR and taxonomy are transparency regulations and not a classification tool. So it means that whatever you can disclose, you disclose it, and you be as much transparent as you can, because, as you said, the regulation is still ongoing, and we still have a lot to learn about it. So, for now, being as much transparent as you can is the best you can do.
Thomas?
I think I will say maybe think twice in one cut. I really think actually before you decide to become Article 8 or 9. Because, yeah, you just need to really understand what you're trying to sign up for and deliver and how you want to deliver it. Because I think then the last thing you want to find yourselves potentially being blamed for greenwashing. I think yeah.
That's also an important question here. So, what are your thoughts about that famous greenwashing again? What is better, to play it safe in the beginning, test it, and then afterwards, like you mentioned also, Thomas, upgrade, downgrade? Or is it really better if you're really convinced to go full, let's say, stake in the game and then try it?
I think that the most important thing is to have a solid methodology behind the product in terms of ESG. And once you have this, I think that maybe, and if you know the regulation, you will not have many problems. But the most important thing is that do not say anything that you cannot prove to do, and build a strong ESG methodology behind your product.
Okay, so let's not be selfish here. Would you like to ask some questions, the audience?
Are there any questions?
Just a question on my side. For the impact fund, are you also using a label?
No, we don't use a label. We use a methodology that are very common in the impact industry to measure the impact. We use the impact management framework, and we also use the IRIS Plus KPIs for impact. I don't know if you know the initiative. They comes from GIN, the Global Impact International Network. I think this is the name.
Okay. And you don't, I mean, have you analyzed the possibility to use a label for the impact fund? Or
yes, what we have,
yeah.
I mean, there is not a label, but we are part of the operating principle for impact management. This is an initiative. I don't know if it has a label, but this is an initiative that comes from the International Finance Corporation, and there are the most relevant impact investors in this initiative. It has 9 principles that you have to follow in order to demonstrate that you are rigorous with the impact.
Any other questions in the public? So if not, we have one question from online participants. And we have one person asking for more information about the reclassification of Article 9 and 8 funds that we see in the market in general. And the person would like to know if this is also happening if the private equity world, and maybe the reasons why and the challenges of this.
In our case, we have been very prudent when we classified our funds. So we have not to downgrade any fund. But maybe Julie, you have more information with all the other clients.
So in private equity, I have not been aware of, but actually, I'm sorry to give you the mic, but I think you have more experience with that.
The answer is we haven't been approached by an Article 8 PE fund to downgrade. There have been few real estate funds, yes, but not a PE one. Yeah.
And Thomas, I would have also a quick question for you. Teresa explained that they are distinguishing the different investment strategies, which completely makes sense. And you on your own, since Vistra is proposing also other services, including fund administration, depository, any hints how you have then collaborated with your colleagues in order to work hand in hand on that project?
Sorry. Well, Vistra is kind of developing a solution that actually can help. Maybe it's a little bit competition with yours, perhaps. But as a service provider, we are developing IT solution to actually cater for Annex 1, which is RTS, which is probably the most complex template you need to fill in to basically get all this data. So we are collaborating with IT company to get the solution done, and this is then as a Vistra can offer another services and bring basically the one-stop shop together, meaning one-stop shop as a third-party AFM on also the other services we provide for administration, basically, of the companies.
And to all of you, have you encountered an interesting startup which could help out for the data collection? Have you heard of such solutions in Europe or in Luxembourg?
The thing is that there are a few providers of ESG information in private markets. No, maybe you have to maybe to count with consultancy. As a consultancy work is not like Sustainalytics, no, where you can find the public information.
Yeah, there are a few in Europe, either as a consultant firm, but also doing just ESG data collection. Although I think for now some of them have interesting tools actually to work directly with companies when the information is not public. So, yeah.
And we highlighted also before the importance of finding the right talents within your different teams, with your different activities. How have you found those, and what would you suggest? Do you have a training pathway within your firms in order to, let's say, get them to the right level, or is that a passion that they kind of shared? Do you have any examples, for example?
I think it's a combination. Because some of our team members, yes, we had to train them basically to make sure that they have adequate training and we comply with the AFMD, basically regulations in terms of SFDR. But to find a talent, I think you need to be really actually passionate about it, try to understand what you want to do and how you want to do it. So we have a couple guys, basically, they volunteering to actually really be kind of the leads of ESG on our side. And that is much easier to basically to work with them, and also they have a definitely good relationship with the clients, which is important.
Yeah, I think to comment on this, I think that, so as I said, it's coming from a passion, but ESG is really holistic, so it's in every sector, and so now I think it's important more than ever to start to implement ESG in every sector of every firm.
Yes, more say the same opinion. The ESG is something that is related to many departments within a firm, and also, for example, in our case, as an asset manager, we have to deal with not only with the investment team, but with also the sales team, the legal team. So it's important through all of the firm.
And also as an industry, sometimes we like to look at ourselves in the mirror. And for example, with buyout strategies, we could go into, let's say, portfolio companies and have a major stakeholdership, which then could, in theory, help us to accelerate, or not enforce, but initiate, inspire those firms to go also quickly into that direction. Is that something you witnessed before, either with your clients or some of your funds you are investing in? Because for us, we see it very important as an important element to add to the value creation angle, meaning they know how to transform the firms, but if we get also that data right, that will help us to have an extra value next to that, which will be then following those different rules and be a kind of extra positive element.
Yeah, I mean,
sorry, and this is one of the opportunities I think I mentioned, that once you start getting the data and you kind of, let's say, unlock the opportunity, if you like, then you can definitely make a good case for a value creation.
Good. That's all on my side. A last question here in the audience.
Yes, I would have a question. I will bounce on the earlier question. Regarding the transition, the downgrading from, for example, Article 9 to Article 10, in terms of a fund, qualifying itself as Article 8 or 9, what would be your approach regarding, like, I know it's not easy to invest in another funds qualifying as Article 8 or 9 for your own investment purposes. So if the other investment funds in which you are investing in are downgrading themselves their qualification, how is it going?
We do not have, for this reason, we do not have a fund of funds that it is Article 9. We choose to adopt a prudent approach, and we classify all of our funds as an Article 8 because we didn't know, as you know, in private equity you invest little by little, and you don't know, you have a pipeline, but you don't know how it's going to be classified your future managers. So in these first funds, or in these first years of the regulation, we classified our fund of funds as an Article 8. So we do not have to downgrade because we have an ESG methodology behind that promotes ESG characteristics and do not do sustainable investment. For example, it is true that in our impact private equity fund of funds, we have many managers that are Article 9, but not all of them, because remember that we invest in Europe, but also in US. So, and as far as I know, you have to have your 100% of your portfolio in Article 9 with sustainable investment. And this is not going to be possible in our fund of funds because we invest also in US managers.
But do you think it will be possible for other funds of funds? Because sometimes even the investment funds in which they are investing in, they are not, in the PPM, sometimes you can see that they are committing themselves to be an Article 9 or Article 8, but they could downgrade in the future. And since these are illiquid assets, it can be difficult with that.
Yes, yes. And for this reason, we took the decision last year to do all of our Article 8 fund of funds, Article 8, because it could happen.
If there are no more questions, we'll close the session. And the next session will take place at 3 p.m. and will be about pension product and sustainability challenges and opportunities they face. And it will be hosted by Alan on Overy. And for this session, I would like to thank you to the moderator and our speakers and to our guests for attending. Thank you very much.